Hello and welcome to Spurs Kings TV. It is Tuesday. You know what time it is. Mr. Busybody over here. How many streams you been doing this afternoon or this evening?
Listen, I'm a celebrity now. You can only address me as Sir Matic. Sir
You,
Matic,
you know.
my friend. Yeah, I've made it. I've made it.
What, first you ditch us for Deji, then you ditch us for Ricky. What's going on, man?
It's just, sometimes got to move up on the world, Just joking.
This is your show. No,
Fashionably late. Fashionably late, bro.
all jokes aside, are you well, Ash? Are you well?
Yeah, man, I'm blessed, man. What can I say, man? Health is wealth. And up here, I'm good. That's what that matters. And family's blessed too. What about you, my bro? You good?
All good, man. All good. All good. All happy. All good.
All right.
For
Let's
now.
go, Lebowski. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so let's bring out the guest, right? We've got quite a few of us tonight, right? And there's a few things to discuss, right? So,
Football, I hope.
oh mate, we're going to talk about football, but that forum, I've watched it now. I watched it while you was on Last Word on Spurs. Didn't want you, I had to watch that. So we will go into that later, but not first of all. Let's talk about football first because we've got Coventry and Brentford to review. But let's bring out the guests who are going to help us do it tonight. Right, so first of all, making his long-awaited return after making his debut in August, I believe. But Dan, are you well?
Yes, guys. Big up, Marlon. Big up, Ash. Great to be back, man. Fantastic.
Big yourself up, my bro. Big
How you
yourself
boys doing?
All good,
We're
man.
good. We're
Good
good.
to see you back as well.
Good to see you back
Thank
as
you very
well.
much. Big up everybody in the chat. Big up to everyone watching. Let's get into it.
So also, someone who tried to make their debut last time but had technical issues, and hopefully, right, because we're now using a new streaming platform, so please bear with us tonight, people. Please bear with us. But
Please.
hopefully he's going to make his second debut tonight. And he tried to come on last time, but let's give a good welcome and welcome round of applause. Caleb, are you well?
Yeah, all good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good to make my debut properly. Like last time, obviously it didn't work, but now hopefully it should work and hopefully we should get a good showing. So thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Now, the next guy is, I call him another Ash. He likes to talk about the tactics. He loves all that side of things, right? So I brought him on just for Ash because, I'm always ganging up on Ash, right? So I thought he needed a friend this week, right? But making his debut to the channel and hopefully, and long awaited. Liam, are you well?
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm here to talk tactics, and I hope, obviously, to bring something to conversation as well.
No problem at all. And last of all, I spoke to him on We Are Tottenham TV, right? And I've seen him a lot on Irish, and I was like, I know this guy when I spoke to him. And then when he spoke to me in Barnby, I was like, yeah, I've got to get him on our channel. Got to get him on, right? But and he's making his debut tonight as well. Welcome, Sam. Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you, lads. Nice to meet you all. The coaches have liked what I'm doing in the reserves, and they've given me some minutes on the pitch, and I'm ready to go.
Love the analogy. So, Ash, where do we start? Do we start with Coventry, or do you want to start with Brentford?
We can start on Coventry. Why not? Let's get it out of the way, man.
Yeah, so, cup game last week, 6 changes. Most people said we didn't play very well, right? And it was probably quite a poor performance because it was Coventry. But what did you make? Why did you think everyone was thinking it was quite a poor performance against Coventry last week?
I think it was down to the opposition, number one. I think a lot of fans had expectations that we would probably go to Coventry and, pick up a win, get a good performance. And they wanted a reaction after what they saw at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against one of our rival, call him Woolwich. We wanted to see more of a bounce back after that game. And what, in fact, we did see was anything but. And we've been critiqued a lot for having a lot of the ball, not doing a lot with it. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, it felt like to me, we were creating less. And a lot of fans, I don't know, I can't speak for all fans, but certainly a few fans looked at it and was like, oh my days, why are we making so many changes? This team needs to be supplemented with some experience and some maybe not so experienced to give us a bit more skin in the game. And yeah, I could just see the midfield dynamic wasn't quite right with Bentancur, Sarr, and Bergvall. I think when we play in our first team, we play with two kind of attacking eights, if that makes sense, two attacking midfielders or deep line playmaking midfielders, and the dynamic seemed a bit defensively a bit off in terms of what Sarr brings. So we looked at the centre back pairing. I thought Dragusin, on the ball wasn't really as good as maybe Romero is on the ball, and Ben Davies is Ben Davies. Obviously, the talking point is the goalkeeper, and that's the reason why when you saw those mistakes from Forster, sorry, that's when a lot of fans got worried. We seemed a bit off from there, and I'm sure other panelists will get into it, but that's what it looked from the outset why we didn't do well in Coventry.
So, guys, I'm going to give you a scenario from Coventry because I really want to go more into Brentford, but I'm just going to ask each different question about the game, and we'll go from there. So, Liam, I'm going to start with you, right? So we started off with a front three of Solanke, Werner, and Odegaard, and obviously
Right.
Brennan Johnson obviously came on later. What did you make of their performance in that game? Could you tell it was a bit rusty and none of them knew each other?
Well, so my initial reaction was just to touch on the whole lineup. I wasn't happy with the lineup. I thought it was too many changes. I liked the inclusion of Odegaard. I want to see Solanke. However, Werner was not a player I particularly want to see that game. I was one who really wanted to see Mikey Moore get some more minutes, and I really want him to start the game, bring him sort of fully into that first team, giving him more of a chance to actually play. Unfortunately, we saw, I would describe as a calamity by Werner. He was, quite frankly, I thought he was easily the worst player on the pitch. I could tell, yes, they weren't familiar. You got to remember this is only Solanke's sort of first few games with Spurs, so I wasn't expecting him to maybe have the fluidity of maybe a Sonny up front. However, I think Odegaard's injury early on in the game also hampered the whole performance. It really broke up maybe what we were trying to achieve, perhaps even maybe what we worked on in training. And ultimately, it's not just costly for us in that game, Odegaard's injury, it's also costly for us because he's out until I think it's mid-October now. And it's a big issue for me because he was our signing on the wing and supposed to bring that excitement, supposed to bring that dynamism on the wing. And it's not just the issue of he can't now play, it's also the issue of that bedding in period extends and now he will probably not be at full fitness in mid-October. He'll take a bit longer. And yeah, we really lack that fluidity. Additionally, just to add in, I don't like Sarr playing in midfield. I don't like us playing with a holding, sort of with this Bentancur Sarr combination. I much prefer the 2 10s. That's just my opinion. And I think that also didn't help with our sort of transition going forward. Having Kulusevski and Maddison in that midfield, Kulusevski almost acting like that centre forward, that additional centre forward going sort of playing up front with the striker, obviously didn't help with our attacking formation. But that's just obviously my opinion on one of the reasons or one of the many things that went wrong in that game.
Dan, I'm going to quickly bring you in. I want to talk to you about the midfield, right? So it was long waited that Bergvall started. Obviously, Bentancur and Sarr in the middle. And as Liam said, he thought those two just didn't work together. What did you make of those three as a midfield in that game?
Oh, it was so flat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So flat. And if the first half, zero chances on goal. It was extremely disappointed, and I expected better, to be honest, with playing against Coventry, who themselves made 7 changes. It was really confusing. It felt like the players weren't up for the match. And again, you have to ask questions about Ange for that.
Sam, let me bring you into it as well. So you obviously, it was like Dan's mentioned changes there, but I'm going to bring the defence to you, right? Now, for me, personally, Archie Gray playing right back when a lot of people said he's going to play centre mid, right? And considering he kept Jed Spence, was it a surprise to you that Archie Gray played there? But how did you think they got on as a unit, especially with Forster behind them?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a big surprise that Spence didn't play. I think a lot of people were quite concerned when Ange named Forster as the final player in the Europa League squad, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people were thinking, okay, well, realistically, he's not going to displace Porro in the Premier League, at least for most games. And he's most likely going to get most of his minutes playing in, the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, hopefully. And I think a lot of us were quite impressed, myself included, with Spence during the pre-season. He came in, he showed a vastly different attitude from all the stuff that we've kind of heard in the background about him. Like he lived next to one of the higher-ups before, and he was having parties, or he was having loud music supposedly blasting till like 2, 3 in the morning. The kind of typical stuff that a young man would do. Like, I'm not going to say that I don't do similar stuff, but then I'm not a Premier League level player, despite my aspirations.
But you're a Premier League analyst.
Yeah, well, apparently so. So yeah, I was quite surprised that Spence didn't come in. I thought that he would probably play Destiny, because we didn't buy anyone else, and I didn't see him playing Van der Ven and then playing Davies at left back, or playing Van der Ven at left back, playing Davies. So I thought the left-hand side was kind of what I expected. I wasn't too impressed with Gray, if I'm honest. I know he's young, and I'm not writing him off. Definitely not. He's clearly got talent.
Yeah.
But I thought we were bringing him in as a midfielder. He said in his Spurs Play interview, I see myself as a 6 going forward, or as a midfielder going forward. So I thought it was odd and a bit disrespectful to Spence to not put him in. Not necessarily that he had been promised anything. Like, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? Ange may have told him, you're not going to be starting this first game. But
yeah,
I think that it would be. I don't think it would be wrong for Spence to kind of look at it and say, well, what more do I have to do? I've been written off by 2 managers previously. One of them saying, this was a club signing, you're not going to get any minutes. Been sent from club to club, and he's had to show a level of maturity, I think, that I believe should have been rewarded. So I was a bit disappointed with that. I kind of expected him to play Forster, although I did have violent flashbacks to that Fulham penalty shootout, and we were minutes away from seeing it again. But yeah, look, I mean, the lineup was odd. I think too many changes, too many players that have never played alongside each other, as well as not really playing any minutes as a starter, at least, like in the club. So yeah, it was odd for me.
Caleb, I'm gonna leave you on the last part. I'm gonna give you the good part. Obviously, we ended up bringing on Son, Maddison, Kulusevski, Johnson, and Spence as subs, right? And theoretically, they changed the game and brought it. For something that was going to look like we were going to lose, especially when we made the subs and then we conceded. But then we ended up bringing on Kulusevski, and the game completely changed into our favour. And as Liam said, we ended up playing with 2 number 10s with Bentancur. Do you think the subs made a massive impact? Was the reason why we ended up getting over the line in the end, and it took our first team players to do it?
Yeah, it was quite strange, the lineup, as everyone's mentioned, but when the subs came on, we saw this fluidity that we'd seen earlier in the season in the Premier League. And perhaps you may say, oh, it's natural. They play together week in, week out. They probably train as a first team in the first team group, as that first 11 in training. But whether that is slightly concerning when it comes to Europa League and we expect changes to be made, and players who seem to be in that second string are not cohesive, is that concerning? I'm not too concerned for the time being, because it's our first time we've really had a chance to see these players who don't play. In regards to the substitutions, I think the most important was Kulusevski. I thought Maddison was actually really good when he came on, but Kulusevski really did really out-trump his performance. I thought Son didn't really do much, and I'm sure we'll come on to Son later, but I thought the way Kulusevski has this unique ability to hold up the ball in transition. There's no other midfielder in our squad that can do that in that half space. Maddison's much more of a I'm going to turn you type guy, whereas Kulusevski's comfortable holding the ball and driving the ball. And I think that's what gave us that ability to get higher up the pitch in a game where, to be honest, for most of that second half, we were really under the cosh, and Coventry should have put the game to bed before we even had a chance to equalise. So we can praise Ange for making the changes. We can say we have that strength and depth to come on and change a game, which again is positive. But surely in a game at Coventry, with the quality that we had on the pitch before the changes, we should have been able to get the job done. However, we've got to look at it from another angle as well, as the likes of Kulusevski and Maddison and Spence. We have game changers who can come on and impact the game.
So Ash, we're going to Saturday, right? So boys will put it well together, but we come into Saturday. Is it 20 seconds? I can't remember how long it was. We go 1-0 down, and Ange is looking around going, really, please not now. Yeah. Forums cancelled on Monday, 1-0 down. But to be fair, they turned it round. And as Michael, it's 23 seconds. Sorry, 23 seconds. What did you make? Obviously, we saw a different lineup to what we saw in the Cup, right? But as Liam said earlier, we ended up going with 2 number 10s again, like we did against Arsenal. And we kind of went with the same starting lineup, I believe.
Yeah, we did.
So, which was really strange considering how a lot of people said we were bad the week before. So, what was the change? Was it a change in mentality? Was Ange showing that these players are playing for him?
No, I don't think. You know what it is? It's controversial, but against Arsenal, I thought the result was poor. But I just thought in terms of the performance, in terms of the attacking third anyway, it's just the IQ. The football IQ was poor. Our decision-making was poor in the final third. And that's why we didn't create a lot of big chances. But we were in that attacking third a lot. So there wasn't too many things that were... And also, you got to respect Arsenal. Defensively, that the best team in the Premier League. That's why we struggled. Like, let's put it bluntly. Let's not get twisted. But when we come against Brentford, I think like that team, I wasn't surprised when we came out with the same team. I thought, yeah, this team should be playing. We should be playing a lot more front foot. We should be playing with 2 attacking 8s or 2 10s, whatever you want to, 2 attacking midfielders, whatever you want to call it. So I thought the way Ange, his philosophy is like, we don't stop. And that epitomized the way we played and the way we started off the game. Well, not started off the game. We started off quite poorly, to be fair. We ended up with 1-0. But that type of stun reaction, we had to wake up straight away. We had to be in the front foot, force us to come out a little bit more aggressive. And maybe we needed that, especially after that Coventry game. It was a close call. I think, we needed to take it to another level. So, in my opinion, I thought it was the right way to go about things. If we are going to move forward with this team, with this philosophy, we need to be consistent with it. We can't be shying away and then all of a sudden changing philosophies or changing formations against a weakened Brentford as well. May I add, at home. Like, what we doing there?
Yeah, because I mentioned this on Saturday and someone tried to say, no, they didn't. But Brentford were missing. I thought it was 9, but it was actually 8. 8 first team players. 2, I think they'd brought in. So they were injury hit, right? So, but we've still got to go out and put a performance in, right?
This is it. So there's no excuses, and it would have been even worse because there's times when we've been injury ridden, but we still have to play our games. Works both ways, but you have to beat the team that's
like
in front of you. Yeah, exactly. You have to beat the teams that are in front of you, and you have to bounce back from A, that bad performance against Coventry, and B, the loss against Arsenal, which followed by the loss against Newcastle. What are we doing there? Do you know what I'm saying? So I thought, we definitely need to show some type of domination, but in the right way, not necessarily all possession, because I think that was the one time that we had less possession, but we had more dominance in terms of in the attacking third in the right places where we want to see it. Do you know what I mean? And I think their stats were, they had more possession because they passed a lot around in their own half, in their own defensive third, if that makes sense. And so that's why the stats were in their favour in terms of possession.
I have a question, Ash.
Go for it, my friend.
And you're probably going to get onto it. But a lot of people were talking that Ange adjusted his tactics against Brentford. And what I mean by that is the fullbacks weren't inverting as much, which left Maddison with more space to do what he needed to do. Now, I've looked at the heat maps and I can't see much difference. in that game and also against the Arsenal game. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a narrative going around that Ange changed the tactics and he tweaked things here and there. But I just think with the fullbacks, from what I saw, there was a lot of rotations between the fullback, the midfield, and the player playing on the wing, especially down the left hand side. There was a nice dynamic going on where sometimes you saw the doggy playing as a left back, but then sometimes you saw Madison in the left back role receiving the ball, and then he was able to get the space to get on a half turn to find the doggy. The doggy was able to turn and then carry the ball up the pitch. So you saw a lot of rotations in that kind of wide channel. And so, yeah, the doggy was inverting, but I think the key thing for me is he wasn't always starting as an inverted fullback. Sometimes he would start in the left back role, and then he arrived in the attacking midfield or the half space or the pocket, whatever you want to call it. He advanced up in that position. So what you saw was little triangles happening. Do you know what I'm saying? Because even Son was a left winger, but he didn't always start there. Sometimes he would start in the left 8 position, and I saw a nice rotation, a nice cohesion, a nice relationship, a nice understanding between the three of them. And I think that was maybe the difference. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's because of way Brentford played." No. Let's give some Spurs some credit, because I thought the way Spurs played was giving us advantages on that left-hand side. Yes, they did play with wing backs, and we did take advantage of some of those spaces, and that's how we got in behind. But I think when they tried to press us, we just had more numbers on that side of the pitch, especially on the left-hand side. That's how I saw it anyway. You guys can interject if you want.
So Liam, I want to quickly bring you in actually on this as well, because you mentioned earlier about the Kulu-Madison partnership, right? Being 2 number 10s. Now, when you saw the Brentford lineup and you was like, okay, it's the same against Arsenal, but were you impressed in the way that midfield combination is going? And I just want to bring in Bentancur into that as well. Are they forming a partnership as a three that actually this might end up moving Basuma out?
I'm very glad you brought in Bentancur. He is, I've been saying it for a very long time and been very adamant in this. I think he's our best midfielder in terms of all-round midfielder, not just in that 6 role, but the 8 role. I think he could even play further forward in terms of like making those forward runs. But I personally think going forward, he is our best 6 at the club at this current time. And yes, Basuma has shown, I guess, levels maybe above what we've seen so far from Bentancur, but I think Bentancur has the quality and the ability to reach higher heights than a Basuma. In terms of that midfield dynamic, the important combination between Kulusevski and Maddison, I feel at times Maddison last season was just getting marked out of games. He was simply having a player stuck to him. He was constantly just trying to lose his marker. We saw him getting into tussles. We saw him trying to just draw fouls, and that was sort of the breakdown in our attacks. Now with Kulusevski there, we see a lot more dynamism. We see a lot more maybe space for a player like Maddison to work those like 1-2s, move into space, putting across, or work those 1-2s with either a fullback or have that rotation in midfield. I just think it works so much better as a team with 2 10s, and it sort of embraces that attacking philosophy that we have. People will say with playing Kulu, you lose legs in midfield. Now, in terms of not having Sarr there. Now, Kulu, if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure he ran the most last season. He covered the most ground, and he's no slouch. Kulu runs. He runs a lot, and I don't think we lose that in midfield. I don't think we lose that. Maybe we lose a slight bit of sort of aerial ability because Sarr's quite tall, but I also don't think Sarr's very good in the air particularly. I don't think he's that strong in the air. So yeah, I personally think going forward, I want to see Kulu and Maddison in midfield. As Kulu, we saw it in pre-season. He was playing as a centre forward. It wasn't the fact that he wasn't just playing as a 8 like we see Sarr. He also then moves into that 9 role or sort of that double striker role. But yeah, that's just the way I see it.
Dan, I want to bring you in, and Dan, I want to bring you in now. And I want you to answer your own question, right, that you asked to Ash, because we didn't really get your way. So you said basically that you didn't think Ange changed tactics dramatically in the game, and
Mm.
you actually thought that Udogie, when you looked at the heat map. But how
Yeah.
did you see the whole inverted wing back situation? Because everyone's now looking at it going, and I was probably one of them. I thought that Udogie was more on the left hand side, more usual than not, and it meant that Son could come in, and hence the reason why Son got the 2 assists, because he then came inside more often, and Udogie was more on the left. But if you're looking at the heat map and saying he was inverted, it was kind of, it wasn't shown. Is it because Brentford had more possession than us this time round, or?
Yeah, it's a really hard one to kind of really truly analyse. I mean, if you look at the game in a whole, we had so many chances. We really played well. We had a lot more urgency. Brentford were quite under strength, as you said at the beginning. I just think we just kept going. We kept on creating, and eventually we were going to score. So it's a bit of improvement in our performance. Brentford a bit weaker. We persisted with creating chances, and it was so crucial getting that third goal, which really ended the context. But because before that third goal, Brentford, I felt, were always in that match, and they had a couple of breakaways. Vicari had to pull off a couple of saves, so it was a game at that point before the third goal came in. It was on a knife edge. So I think we have to big up the lads. The attacking play was excellent. I still have my concerns about being clinical because teams we're going to come up against, we're not going to get that many chances. So there's still question marks for me. But if you judge the game on a whole, it's definitely an improvement.
So Sam, I just want to quickly bring you in and bringing you in on it as well. What did you make of the whole Porro, Udogie, and actually the new 2 number 10 situation?
Personally, I thought I saw wider wing backs, which is something that I've kind of been calling for quite a lot, because I I do subscribe to the narrative of, these we just I think it was I was watching We Are Tottenham TV, and I think his name was Max Redman, was talking about how it's not necessarily opposition teams that flood the midfield. We do it to ourselves. And when you've got so many bodies like getting into that midfield position, it doesn't really play into the games of these players who like to get on the ball and try and progress it with their dribbling ability, or, in Kulu's case, his physical dribbling as well. But I do agree with Ash about the fluidity of the team. It kind of reminded me a little bit of how we used to play under Poch. There's one game that I always kind of like go back to, and I think it was like 2018. We beat Everton in the Christmas period, like 5-1 or 5-2, and we absolutely smoked them. And we had the front three, well, the front four of, Eriksen, Dele, Kane, and Son. And obviously Kane was more in his strict position, but those other three were able to float like all about. And I think that makes it so much harder for teams to defend against us, because no one knows where to go, especially a team like Brentford, who like to go man for man. It just creates a lot of confusion in their defense. And, our pressing, especially Solanke's pressing and Maddison and Bentancur, their pressing really kind of threw one at Brentford, where they couldn't really understand how their game plan could work against it. And I think that I do also agree that it wasn't just Udogie staying wide, because there was quite a lot of times in the game where I actually thought Maddison picked up like a left wing position. He floats quite a lot around. I don't really look at the heat maps and that, but I can imagine that his heat map was kind of spread out like all over, because he just wants the ball wherever he can get it. And he might not be in his best form yet. I think there's been a vast improvement from last season, or at least the end of last season, and that was probably his best game for a considerable amount of months, his most influential game, which was helped by other players, like you said, Bentancur. I thought he had a great game as well. But yeah, I mean, I did personally think that it made sense to have the wingers going wider, because the fullbacks going wider, because Porro was a wing back and Destiny was a wing back. So, and especially with Porro being probably the best, having the best ball ability pause in the team, like we need him getting those crosses in, especially with Solanke being so dominant in the air last season. We need to play to his strengths and not always just cut the ball back all the time. Like I can see that position sort of towards the top of the field where he's cutting inside. And I like that too, though, because as I say, he can strike a ball very, very well. And there's some times where the ball falls to Brennan Johnson, and I wish at times it would be Porro, because he will test the keeper. And that's not to bash Brennan Johnson, because I actually think Brennan could be an important player for us in the system. And obviously he scored a fantastic goal.
Sam, I'd like to say, about Maddison, and this was one of his best performances for a long time. I'm sure everybody saw that. He was fantastic, wasn't he? And if we can get him playing like that moving forwards, I mean, what an impact he can make to the team. He was fantastic. And Bentancur as well had a very, very strong game.
So Caleb, I want to bring you in on it as well, as you can see by their thing, and obviously the play heat maps here, because obviously Maddison's made a massive impact. You saw what Porro's heat map like, Brennan Johnson as well. What did you make of the whole front three and the whole selection on how their movements let me rephrase that, their movement in the game and helping us actually get the 3 goals we needed this time, where in previous games it's been quite on and off. Oh, I think he's gone. Ash, you take over.
Yeah, so I just felt with the front three, because we spoke about the fullbacks sometimes being wide and sometimes they were behind the wingers. Sometimes when the ball was won high up in the pitch, it gave space for the likes of a Son to run in behind. It gave likes of a Johnson, who I think is profiled a bit better as a wide forward or inside winger, or just not an out-and-out winger. You got your traditional winger that hugs the touchline. I think he is better when he's on the transition, when he's closer to the goal, and he can exploit the space in behind, and he's got grass to run into. He's a player for me that runs in straight lines. My critique to him, if I can, because I know it's quite sensitive, but for me, I would like him to be a bit more assertive in his decision making, a lot more aggressive as well, because there are players, for example, that can do that. I would put like Johnson. Brentford wanted them, and if Johnson went to Brentford, they wouldn't have him as a touchline winger. They would use him more like they use it in Mbeumo. And lots of people say, I want Mbeumo, but imagine Mbeumo playing as a wide winger that has to beat his man and cross balls in his box. You're wasting Mbeumo. And I'm thinking Brennan Johnson, for me, if we start playing him closer to the goal and making him more aggressive, that has to come from him personally. The coach can say be more assertive and aggressive as much as he wants, but he needs to do that himself. And then Son, again, it looks like the old Son, because again, he's the type of player that likes to play on the transition. He's the type of player that likes to, when he was playing with Kane, he would run in behind all the time. And I saw that link up with Solanke. Solanke at times would drop in the hole. Sometimes he would pull wide, create numerical advantages. The ball would go into him, and at times the ball would stick, and he would help us to progress up the pitch. And there was a time when he put a little through ball and he played in Son, and Son had a 1v1 chance. So these things, if we continue to play in this type of style, then we will create a lot more chances going forward, and we can be quite deadly if we take those chances, those bigger chances, in fact. So I mean, does anyone else disagree? Does anyone think that we will revert to type in terms of, because we have been playing Son out wide against Newcastle, he played out wide against Arsenal, he played out wide on the left. Do we think that it's going to go back to those times where we're no longer doing that?
It's too early, isn't it, Ash? I think we need to see in the next few games how that forward line works. If it's similar to the Brentford match, but if you're right what you're saying, then let's hope so, man, because we need it. We need better performances in the attacking third.
For me, I don't think it's so much he's done anything different in terms of. I just don't think he's a winger that can play in small areas. He's not a Yamal. He's not a Vinny Junior who can beat a man or beat two. He's just not that type of player. Like you said, he's an inside forward. At say Nottingham Forest, we saw him playing up front sometimes with like Awoni, and if he has space, he can work with it. We saw he can finish. I've got no doubts around that. It's my concerns more come around with if we're sticking him out on the wing when his best attribute is really it's shooting. He can cross a ball, but his best attribute is being in front of goal in space, trying to get a shot off. Now, can we utilize that when he's stuck out wide? And that's a question I don't know.
Caleb, let me just quickly bring you in on as well. I just want to bring you in on this super chat, and thank you, Faz, for the super chat. Faz31 Spurs. He said, fine margins our way, but would have had 15 points. Discuss. And I want to bring this to the whole panel, but I want to start with Caleb, right? Because after seeing that performance against Brentford, if we look at the season as a whole, apart from Coventry, I'm taking Coventry out of the equation. I'm looking at all our league games. Is it down to fine margins what it's been this season?
I definitely think attacking-wise, we've been the best we've been under Ange. Like, you could talk about the first 10 games last season, but there were games in the first 10 games. I remember Palace away, where we were actually quite lucky to get that result we did. We had, I think, 4 shots on target the whole of that game, Palace away. But this season, we're seeing almost a more efficient Spurs in terms of getting shots off. You know, we're second for shots, second for shots on target, but we're also second for big chances missed, and that says a lot from where we came last season, where actually we were quite good with our shot success rate on goal. This season we are creating a lot of chances, we're getting lots of shots off, but we're not actually taking them. We're 13th for goals per shot, which is so poor when it comes down to how many goals you actually have to score to win games. You can take as many shots as you want, but it's the shots that come to goals that are actually important. I think certainly the Newcastle game, I thought Newcastle was so fortunate to win that game. 2 moments that they had and a great finish from Harvey Barnes to score their first one sort of gave them that one. We weren't great in the second half, but I still think we should have come away with something. I thought Arsenal, again, the performance, as Ash said, wasn't terrible. And I thought that there was, on another day, that Kulusevski chance from 4 minutes goes in and we have that game wrapped up after 4 minutes, because Arsenal were not convincing and they weren't great. I definitely think obviously Leicester, we know what happened at Leicester. So yeah, I think to some extent we can say that comment has good value to it. But then again, we can't every time we drop points say, oh, we were unlucky, we were the better team, we deserve to win the game. We have to be able to say, okay, in this game, we may have had 70% possession in the games before Brentford. We may have dominated the ball, but did we actually dominate in terms of creating XG? Because in the Brentford game, 3 XG, that's amazing. From games previous to that, we were creating less than 1 XG in some of those games. So when it comes down to it, these fine margins are the fine margins that will push us to win a cup, or will push us to finish higher than 4th, will push us to actually be successful. And we can't keep saying that these fine margins are what's costing us. We have to now look at ourselves. But from what we've seen in the Brentford game, we need to have a look at whether that continues at Karabag and then obviously at United away, which I think is a huge game when it comes.
Liam, want to bring you on that comment as well? Fine margins, or have we just got to be better going forward?
You can always say fine margins in football. I've watched games where I thought we've dominated the entire game and then someone's walked away with a point. I didn't think we were that bad against Arsenal. I didn't think we were that bad. At the end of the day, Arsenal won because of a set piece, and we know we're weak at set pieces. And I'm sure that will be continued at least for a little while until perhaps I know that we've got a coach now working on set pieces to try and improve that, and we'll see how that goes. But in terms of just want to touch on XG, in quite a few games we've had better XG than our opponent, but it's taking those chances and also quality of chances. There's sometimes we we're not, I guess, if you compare some of the games where we've just sat in a horseshoe in the attacking half, I'm sure we're all familiar with that horseshoe shape we tend to take up, especially when we've penned them all back in the box. We saw against City yesterday when Arsenal down to 10 men. On Sunday when Arsenal down to 10 men, they were taking shots from distance. I don't see players like Maddison do that enough. I've seen Sarr do it quite a lot. I've seen Son do it, but we haven't really seen that from Maddison so far, which is something that I'm quite concerned with. I don't know why he's not taking shots from outside the box. We saw it for Leicester. I'm still waiting for him to get his free kick goal. I'd love to see that. Maybe against Karabag, perhaps. But you can always say fine margins in football, but that's what football is. It's fine margins. We lost the Champions League. Well, primarily the penalty was because of a handball, which was a bit dodgy. So that's fine margins. If that's a bit higher up, well, maybe it's not a penalty. Maybe we win. Now that's decided.
Dan, I want to bring you in on it as well. Like, as both Caleb and Leah said, look, the XG's been high in games, but the quality of chances probably not as much. Is that more down to what's been happening this season? And against Brentford, the quality of chances were just was much more better than they have been in previous games.
Yeah, nice. That's a good point, Marlon. Now, for me, I'll break this down in three things. So, number one, the quality of forward players, not Solanke, but the wingers, are not good enough for me. They don't take on their man. They don't score or assist. Okay, we got some. Fair enough. I'm talking about the signings. So the quality, we haven't brought the quality in, and that is going to be a problem throughout the season. Now, number two, we're playing against a lot of teams who are going to be sitting in the low block, and it's going to be about how we're going to break them down and creating that quality of chance. Now, if you look at the games we've played so far, especially against the better sides like Newcastle and Arsenal, we have struggled to create quality chances, and we've struggled to be clinical. Number three, there's certain games we're going to play against teams who are going to be a little bit more open. They're going to give us a bit more space, and we're going to probably see that in the next two games against Manchester United and Brighton. I don't think neither of those teams are going to play deep and sit in a low block. I think they're going to try and play against us. So it's a really difficult one to judge. And then I go back to my beginning point. I just do not think we have the level or quality of winger to keep playing Ange's system consistently. And if you look at Son for me now is a moments player. You know, he's not going to be taking on his man through the whole match. And then you look at the other side, Johnson. I mean, he can't take on a man either, and he's not consistent enough. So I hope I've made sense there. I said quite a lot, but I think you can all get my point.
No. The thing about you, you know what the thing
and all them variables with different teams we play against. Some will be playing low blocks, some will be giving us a bit more space. The teams that give us more space, then I think that we might do better. But we'll find out.
Do you agree?
And that's quite interesting. Yeah, Sam.
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that statement that we don't have the right profile wingers to take us through to the season all the way through, and we struggle against low block teams? Son is a moments player. Brennan Johnson and some of the other signings are not good enough throughout the whole season. We only work well if teams give us space. What are your thoughts on what Dan said?
Yeah, look, I mean, I do agree mostly with that. I think it kind of falls back on the window where we bring in Timo Werner straight away so early on when we could have probably waited the entire window and then brought him in kind of last minute if our other targets don't come through. But in the end, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot and we bring in this guy that I think he had moments last season amidst all of the shit, let's be honest, because there was a lot of times where you're looking at him and just thinking, you've got so much pace, yet when you have the chance to go forward, admittedly, last season, I didn't think we really played to his strengths because a lot of the times he'd be in a position for a ball over the top and, Maddison would play a Trivela 5 yards because it looks good, or, we just wouldn't play it. But he would make runs with the ball and then you get to the fullback and he'd be like, okay, I'll just turn around now and play a little back pass. And so I think a lot of people would agree that he never showed, and then with the injury, he never really showed enough to suggest that we should sign him like again. I think that as much as I didn't know much about Odegaard coming into the season, and he's a raw talent, he looks like the right kind of profile of winger. You know, he wants to take players on, and is clearly quite direct with the ball. Hopefully, he can get his sort of head into Ange's system a little bit better and make those runs towards the back post, because I think that quite a lot of times we have squandered chances where he's either not made the run to the back post, or he's just not had the experience to do what admittedly what Brennan Johnson does. You know, be that back post winger. And obviously the Newcastle game, I think, kind of highlighted his raw like talent. I think that we play a system that basically relies on you to be perfect pretty much all over the pitch. And I mean that in the sense of like the opposition can sit back and shithouse every player behind the ball, and they only need one chance, basically one mistake from us. One player steps up, like in the Newcastle game, Romero steps up and the others don't step up. And I'm not blaming any of the parties for that specifically. There was just a lack of communication. That's what I blame that on. But we play such a high risk system that teams only need one chance to score. And I think that's why it was annoying against Arsenal, because we didn't actually give them any chances like that. They scored off a set piece, another vulnerability, sure, but you know, they are set piece masters, as much as I hate to give them credit for it. But I just think there are a lot of positives with the way that we play. There are also a lot of negatives, and I question whether if Brentford had Wissa playing, whether the game would have played out quite the way that it did, because Wissa and Mbeumo together are very potent, and I think they would have caused us a bit more problems. And Wissa, he loves a goal, so that was a big positive for us. And I think that a lot of other teams will look at that performance from Brentford and just think they didn't play enough long balls. The long ball is what we've kind of been caught out by in practically every single game last season, and in the Coventry game specifically. Like, I mean, they look like Man City at times. We were just making them, and no, that's no disrespect to Coventry, but you know, they had made 7 or 8 changes as well, so we were effectively playing against their B team, and we looked like a bunch of players that had never played football before and couldn't adapt to what was going on. So it's concerning in some instances, but then, you know, the performance against Brentford, we strangled them in the midfield of the pitch and pushed that forward. And like Dan was saying, our wingers didn't quite take advantage of that. What I would just say lastly, though, is I think Son gets a bit of a bad rap because, especially against Arsenal, at least in the first half, I thought he cooked Ben White quite a few times. And then they've just got so many bodies back, and that's maybe a flaw of the system, or that's how people see the system is easy to play against. And there was no real way for him to get the ball in or take a shot off.
Sorry, Sam. Sorry, Marlon. Can I just say, come back at Sam? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
So he's made some excellent points, and I just want to get a question to the panel before you move on to the next question. Let me put this to you all. If we had signed the better wingers in the summer, do you think we'd have more points?
Who's going to answer that first? Go on, Sam.
I don't think so, because I think it comes down to, like, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't credit who it was that said it in the previous answer, but the quality of our chances is just not good enough for most of the time. So, you know, we're calling for players to take long shots because we're not getting those one-on-one chances. I know obviously we had them against Brentford and maybe Son squandered it, but we're not getting the continuous one-on-one chances and chances where, you know, if someone misses, you think, oh, they should have scored that. Like, you know, we're looking at Brennan Johnson's wild slash where he I think it was against Arsenal, where he hit it over the bar and didn't test Raya from what I thought was quite a tight angle. And I think that that's not an easy shot, but everyone's saying, you know, he's got to test the keeper from there. He's got to do better. But we don't. Again, it comes back to the space. We don't have the space for players to get those shots on, and maybe that's where Solanke comes in, because his hold-up play and his pressing is good. So maybe he can sort of draw players out, and we can create that space if players like Maddison and Kulusevski can exploit it.
Sam, sorry, I've got to come back. I have to. I disagree, because I think if you had an essay, they could have created something out of nothing and got us the goals. What about if you look at it from that point of view?
I get that, but I just think that when the opposition gives you no space, like, with all due respect to teams like Wolves and teams like Crystal Palace, oppositions don't sit in a low block against them.
Good point.
So, then they're not giving these teams the respect, I want to say, because I feel like teams are respecting that we can hurt them if we have space. So players like Eze can pick up the ball in the pocket and take that strike. Whereas, admittedly, I do agree to an extent. There are times where you're kind of looking at Son thinking you're in a position to take what effectively is like a penalty for you with a long shot. We've seen him over the years take so many strikes from long range that have just smashed into the top corner, and that's what made him such a dangerous player. So I do think that there is some scope for that, but I also think that it's still down to the lack of quality chances that we're creating, personally.
Fair enough.
Go on, Liam, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to add on. I know you mentioned about Eze there. Are you proposing then who would Eze come in for? Because in my opinion, Son doesn't get dropped because he's the captain. Maddison's the vice captain. You're not going to probably drop him. And then you have Kula, who's arguably been probably our best player this season. And then we have Solanke, who, of course, he's our new £65 million signing. So I guess, is Eze playing on the right? Or I guess if we got Neto, Neto could have made a difference. I do think that would throw into a conundrum. And I think, yes, better quality players, of course. I would love better quality players, but I think it all depends on, are they the right fit for the system? And
Listen,
at the moment...
Liam, you have an Eze, you have a Neto there. It doesn't have to be them. It could be any really top winger or attacking midfielder. Players like those make a difference in tight matches. They could come off the bench, a bit of magic. We saw that goal Eze scored against Chelsea the other week, yeah? He could have done that in for us in one of those games against Arsenal, maybe. So I get your point, Liam. Where do we fit them in? And that is a good point. But we signed Wilson, we signed Werner. Come on, we could have done a hell of a lot much better, and made us.
I don't disagree with you.
Side. But that's a Levy problem, isn't it?
I don't disagree with you there. I would have loved to have signed Eze instead of Werner, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. I'm not going to argue. I would love Eze to play for Spurs. I would love Neto to play for Spurs, but we didn't see that.
Guys, what's your opinion on what me and Liam have said?
Actually, do you know what? I'm going to ask another question here, because it was following on from that, and you've all kind of mentioned it, right? But let's talk about the elephant in the room here, and let's talk about Brennan Johnson, right? I know, look, he scored on Saturday, right? Got his goal after the abuse and everything he received on social media. But if we look at his performance on Saturday and look at everything you guys have been saying, is Brennan Johnson good enough to be our starting winger? And I'm going to start with Liam first, and then I'll go with Sam, and then I'll end with you, Dan.
Okay.
I don't think he fits the system well enough for me.
Okay.
I see him much more as a secondary striker, as opposed to having Son, who wants to also shoot, having Johnson, who also wants to shoot. It works in transition, but I don't think it works against low blocks.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I like to back Brennan because I like to back all the players, but I can't deny, I don't necessarily think he doesn't work in the system, because I think that he, out of all our wingers, understands the system better than anyone else, like what he needs to do. It's maybe the quality that's not quite there. But I think it's more just the fact that, with no disrespect to Ange, his system has kind of been found out, or, at least his early form of the system has been found out. and in kind of a simple way, which is just you want to put the ball in, we'll put all our players in and around your players so that they can't get near it. So yeah, I don't know. I think that Brennan can be a good player for us. I think he's better off the bench when teams are tiring, and maybe he'd be better for us. And again, like Timo Werner would be better for us coming on when we have a goal and teams have to push out a little bit.
Dan, go on.
Sorry. Yeah, I agree with both Liam and Sam. He's not the one. He's had a really hard time playing for Spurs. So much criticism and all the horrible online abuse, which it's sad to see. Johnson, for me, in our squad, is a player that can offer something off the bench when you need a goal. When defenders are tired, he can maybe get in behind them, score a goal, create a chance across the box. But moving forward, he's not going to be the guy who's really going to take us up to the next level.
Ash, before you go on to the Brentford stats, I've got them up, don't worry. But before, Brennan Johnson.
Yeah, I said it earlier. The profile of Johnson, if you looked at him at Nottingham Forest, he was more of a wide forward, more of an inside forward. Now, does Ange play that way in a possession-based team? Does he utilize Johnson? Is he utilizing Johnson to his strengths, meaning he's playing him as a touchline winger, playing him out wide, making him cross? Something that Johnson does, but in terms of like varieties of crossing and accuracy of crossing, he's good at fizzing the ball across the 6-yard box, someone getting on the end of it, and that's how we scored a goal. But that often happens, again, on transitions. I don't find it against teams where we've got a lot of possession and he gets down that side and then he fizz it in. It doesn't always work well when people are defending like that. But this is the Premier League. Teams do play against us. It's not like teams sit 90 minutes in a low block or, they put 10 men behind the ball for the whole game. There are going to be times where teams do get a bit brave, they get a bit of confidence, and they do have a game plan going forward. And then those times and those moments where Spurs have to exploit those spaces and play to someone like Brennan Johnson's strengths. Odegaard, for me, is more of that type of dribbly, take-on type of winger. Do you know what I mean? Rather than Brennan Johnson, I said it before, he needs that space to kind of work in manoeuvre. Coming on against tired legs, I hear that, because as an impact player, when teams do tire and we're pressing high and we're trying to win that ball back up high on the pitch, then I think Johnson can be effective. But I think we could do better, personally. We have to play to Johnson's strengths if we're going to play him.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How many top 10 teams do you think, like realistically, Brennan Johnson starts for? Because I was trying to think about it before I answered.
Question. That's a flipping question, bro.
Okay, so before we answer this, clarify, are you talking about top 10 from last year, or is there a list of top 10? Because obviously there's the top old style top 6 plus 4 more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the sort of the top 6 plus like the sort of newer teams that are pushing for that top 6, and maybe
Newcastle,
and maybe you like sort of like a Palace and like a Wolves or something,
I think he. It all depends on the system they play. In my opinion, if they play 2 up front, or they play 2 strikers, or an inside forward and a striker, I think he could get into a team. I think he's really good at that. I think he's really good as a secondary striker. I just don't rate him. When I said before, I just don't rate him as an out and out winger. That's just my opinion on him. What I've seen him do best is being in forward positions in transition. I think he'd do really well at like a Newcastle, for example. That's just my opinion, but I don't know everyone else's.
Yeah, no, for me, it depends on the style of play. It depends on the team. If you look at Man City, I don't think he'll get into their team because they play with wingers that hug the touchline, and he's not a touchline winger. So I don't think he'll get into Man City's team. Arsenal plays slightly different. But again, he's not a player that can come inside on his left foot like Saka does and then smash it top bins. He kind of needs that space to operate and maneuver in, and he runs in straight lines, whereas Saka kind of inverts a lot when he carries the ball in, but he does need players that help him. When he's 1-on-1, Saka could do a job. When it's 2v1, then Saka struggles a bit. But Brennan Johnson, teams don't respect him like that. That's why we're not seeing him doubled up. Then you look at maybe Chelsea. I don't see him getting in Chelsea's at all, if I'm being totally honest. So there's your three. Manchester United, could he feature from Man United with Rashford, Garnacho, Højlund, maybe off the bench, possibly. I don't think he starts.
West Ham,
yeah, possibly West Ham, possibly
better
West Ham,
than Bowen.
He doesn't start for West Ham.
Possibly, he doesn't start, but he can get into their team. This is what I'm talking about. There, are we talking about starting or into their team?
It's got to be starting. Getting into their team. It's got to be in their team because he'd get into most squads, but whether they'd use him as much as we do is a complete different question.
I don't think he gets into West Ham because we've got Bowen and Kudus there. So
yeah, Palace is probably the only stretch that he possibly might.
Well, they lost their best player on the right? So
yeah, and we're talking about.
Then, if we're saying starting, he doesn't get into starting for Newcastle.
No, he doesn't get started for Newcastle.
Yeah,
Brighton,
not starting.
Not starting. I still mean squads because
Brighton he probably doesn't start for. Bournemouth maybe, Fulham possibly, Wolves yes, Everton definitely yes, Brentford probably not. If we're looking at it, depending on where he's going to play, but depends on where Mo and Wisa are going to play as well. So they did want him, so maybe
they
he would
play a
start.
4-3-3 sometimes. They don't always play a.
That's what I'm saying. But it depends on what they're going for.
Yeah.
That for me, Brentford is a maybe. Where depending with their thing, Nottingham Forest is a yes because obviously it could be a yes, and then you're talking about the three promoted sides. So if we're looking at it, Son gets into most, Solanke probably gets into most, if we're being honest. But that's probably where we're weak at the moment, is on Johnson's side, right?
Yeah. But shall we get into it?
Yeah.
You guys ready?
Can you click play?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can.
Go on, you go ahead. You take over.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Spurs. How does it look on the screen? It looks kind of blue to me. Anyway, is it all right?
Click off. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
For us.
right.
You have to click off the screen, and it will change from blue.
Okay, cool. So please forgive me, guys. It's a new format, new software. But
I really apologise, bro.
Okay, cool. So this is the momentum bar, and as you can see, how high the bars are shows where we actually attack. So I'm not actually looking at the possession so much. I'm looking at where we were the most threatful. You can see where the goals were scored. Brentford obviously was scored first, and then shortly after we score again. But we've had an attack there, as you can see, just before that. But yeah, let's move on from that because momentum bars are the momentum bars. But in the next metric, I'm just showing our lineup, which is the 4-3-3, lined up with Vicario, Pedro Porro, as per usual, Romero, Mickey van der Ven, Bentancur in the 6 kind of role, or the deepest of the midfield 3, Brennan Johnson, Solanke, and Son up front. If we move on to Brentford, they had a 5-3-2, I believe, with Lewis Potter as a wing back and Aya as a right wing back. They had Damsgaard in midfield, Janelt and Yarmolenko and Carvalho and Mimbrero up front as a 5-3-2. That was our average positions. Always good to look at. In the average positions, you can see number 19 is Solanke, and he's quite close to Bentancur. And you're actually seeing Kulusevski being our furthest forward player with Son and Brennan Johnson not too far behind. The wingers, the right back, slightly inverted, but they're playing behind the wingers. So that's the key feature, I would say, for that. There is our actual average positions for our substitutes. You can see Mikey Moore. You can see Sarr there as well, Bergvall, and the rest of them in their positions. But they only came on for 3 minutes. Didn't really impact the game, so I won't talk about that too much. This was Brentford's average position. They were like a mid to low block in their team. And so people say we can't play against mid to low blocks. Well, we clearly did something well against this team for Brentford. Again, here's some of the stats. Big chances that's been mentioned in the comments. 7 big chances to their 2. 23 shots for us to their 6 total shots. 5 big saves from Vicario, 6 from their goalkeeper. Key metric there, big talking point there. 9 corner kicks to their 4. 11 fouls to 6. Moving on, you can see 10 shots on target to 6 on target. That's the domination, the field. Some people call it the field tilt, the concentration of the play. You can see that for Spurs, a lot of our joy came down the left-hand side, not so much centrally, but more so on the right-hand side was the second most important side that we had on that side. Again, most of the possession was dominated in the Brentford's half, 47% because of their build-up. That's where most of it was played. Here's some of other new metrics, which was the passing. They had more passing than us. Final third entries, we beat them. Final third entries, again, as a percentage, we have more there as well. And here's some of the defensive metrics. Tackles, we had less total tackles than Brentford. Interceptions, though, we had more than them on that front. Again, here's a metric where we shows some of our attacking intent. Here's a passing map, and I've mentioned it on the average positions. You can clearly see Solanke and Bentancur playing close together, and it kind of looks like the 3 slightly different, with Kulu playing the highest out of them. Actually, Brennan Johnson's the highest, and Kulu not far behind, with Son there on the left. But you can see the passing metric between Son on the left, Maddison not far behind Son, and then slightly behind you can see Doggy. So I announced that because you can see how close together they are. In a triangle further back on the right-hand side, Brennan Johnson and Porro further behind. And there you can see our centre-backs a bit further behind with Romero and Mickey van der Ven, with Udogie playing outside of his goal, off of his goal line. There's a concentration of shots. There's the XG that we spoke about earlier in the show, 3.49 to their 0.74. Live shots 3.41 to their live shots 0.66. The units talk for himself. This unit here shows obviously Son's progressions in terms of his ball carrying, and then the metric for Maddison, where he feels quite high on, was Maddison's passing metrics. His progressive passing is the best, other than Flecken. Flecken's their goalkeeper. That's why they're so high. And Romero's not far behind. Porro's not far behind. And Vicario's not far behind. And I give those honorary mentions for a reason. But again, Udogie, ball carrying as well. He's up there alongside Kulusevski. For Brentford, it was Lewis Potter and Damsgaard. So those are important to mention as well. These are the another metrics: field tilt, threat, XG, possession. They had more than us, but we had a higher possession in their half. And then it talks about defensive action heights. We bodied them on that metric. So here's some of the heat maps. You can see here, I brought it up in the show, so I won't go over that in detail. But you can see that the fullbacks were a lot wider and deeper than before. So here we go. We mentioned Brentford here. It started off with Brentford, Lewis Potter wide, Porro not as tight as possible to Lewis Potter, giving him a little bit of space. And he manages to wriggle around him, and he gets off and he manages to get that cross into the box. With Mbeumo hits the volley in the back of the net, 1-0. Kulu presses the keeper from the offset, tries to win the ball back. We forces a turnover. We get the ball. Bentancur's super aggressive. He wins the ball high up. That ball goes into Kulusevski. Kulusevski finds Brennan Johnson on the run, and that's where we create that space. And so when I was talking about us winning the ball high up, there we win the ball in our actual half. So it wasn't always a mistake from Brentford. Sometimes we won the ball in our actual defensive half, and then we set the trap. So we're setting traps all over the pitch. It's not just around and in around zone 14, in and around the box, in and around the attacking third, sometimes in the defensive third, and then we're able to transition where they've pulled all their players all up, because we are trying to draw the press and we are trying to pull this back five out of their shape if they're in their 5-3-2. Johnson obviously runs onto it and he underhits the pass. Pass doesn't find its destination. Van der Ven passes it into Solanke, and Solanke does well for me to hold that ball up. He drops into that midfield as a false nine or it gives us a numerous overload where we have more players overloading a particular part of the pitch, and we outnumber Brentford in that area. So the reason why I've paused it on here is because when you've got Solanke dropping in and the ball sticking to him like that, that allows Son and it allows Brennan Johnson to play like forwards. So now you've got a different formation where you've got two strikers in Brennan Johnson and you've got a striker in Son. And when he drops into that space, that's what's allowing the space in behind. It's not that, Brentford are pushing high up and they're being naive. They're following their centre-backs being pulled out because his task is to mark Solanke. And Solanke playing the false nine role allows him to be that sacrificial lamb almost. Holds on to it well there. And then from there, he actually gets that ball. He holds on to possession, surrounded by three Brentford players, still holds on to the ball, and he holds on to possession, finds Porro, and that helps us to progress up the pitch. When Porro has that ball in that kind of Trent Alexander area, he fires the ball down the wing, and he finds Johnson, and that pass is crossed out. They defend it well. Solanke wins the ball high up. He holds it. He pauses on the ball, and that run finds Son. Son comes in. He lays that ball off. It's a cutback, and it's another chance for Maddison, who gets that shot blocked in that particular area. So again, this is another form of patterns of play, attacking patterns of play, where you see something slightly different. When you're seeing, again, our new striker in Solanke pulling wide, guys. He's not playing in the number 9. He's pulling wide, giving us a numerical advantage on a wider area. That's how we create another chance. And the fact that he pauses on the ball allows our wing players to get forward and get to the byline. So I just wanted to highlight that because it's another form of attacking patterns of play that wasn't called by a Brentford mistake. Kulu wins the ball here, forces a mistake. Maddison shits that shot saved, and then obviously Solanke, he pounces on that. So this is just another angle from it. Obviously, win that ball high up, the shot saved again, and that one was made by a mistake. That mistake did happen because they were trying to play out the back. And that's when we did capitalize that. And you have to take your chances. We did. Maddison could have passed it. He goes for the shot. I'm not mad at it. It's a goal. It's 1-1. We're back in the game. Van der Ven again finds a doggy out wide. And he turns. He's able to do the half turn. And we spoke about this half turn before because a lot of people are talking about Maddison on the half turn. No, we've got more than one player that can get in a half turn. Why is a half turn so important? It helps you to transition and it makes it look like a counter attack as soon as you're able to turn on the ball and find one of your players in the midfield. And I mentioned the players that rotated quite frequently. Here you see a doggy who finds Maddison, and who can you see on the right? You can see Son. So that's 3 players close to each other, and you can see the relationship between these 3 players, and they're able to find each other. When that happens, you see him on a turn, you see the great rotation. It's a little triangle going on here. He threads the ball over the top, Maddison does, and he finds a doggy there with a little 1-2. Then I'm saying, could he pass it to Son? Could Son run in behind? Could Son find Solanke? He opts to shoot instead, and he hits it right down the middle. Normally, when Son's in that area, we're not mad at him shooting because he finds the corners. But in the vein of form he is at the moment, he hits it straight down the middle, and the keeper saves it comfortably. There's no problem in that actual shot there for the goalkeeper. It goes straight to him. They are marking up Spurs, basically winning that ball high up. Again, that trio. There's actually 4 or 5 players in that area. Even Kulusevski's pulled over because we're seeing there's a lot of joy on their right-hand side, which is our left. And that's where we're seeing, this is a pressing trigger. Can we dominate the team on this side? Can we pull them to one side to create space and create holes in their centre-backs, in their fullbacks? You can see the corner of your screen, Johnson. You can see Kulu in between the 2 centre-back, the centre-back and the fullback. And even beyond that, Porro, he's got space now because we've had 4 or 5 players in that side. We're creating that dominance right there. And that's another pattern of play. Gives it to Kulu. Kulu sees there's nothing on at the moment, and he decides to recycle. He doesn't want to pass it. Goes back to Vicario. Vicario does a straight ball into Maddison. Maddison able to get in that half turn, pass in between lines. Kulu's getting to the ball. He's on the run. Passes it into Johnson. Johnson gets on the ball. Johnson shots. Goes off wide, and he doesn't quite get in. Maddison, again, on the press, wins the ball, anticipates it. Johnson's in the attacking area, passes it into him in that attacking area. but the defender comes across, does well, and that comes to nothing. Here's another angle of it. Johnson gets blocked. He gets denied in that chance. So again, another pattern of play, and it's just showing how we are pressing from the front. I did the arrows there just to show when we're in transition, when we're in that ball, we've won that ball higher up. It's not necessarily for no mistake. It's us setting traps, and that makes it look like, oh, look, we've got space to play in behind. Brentford are a low block team, but why is it we've got 3 players running at their fullback and 2 of their centre backs? Obviously, you can see another player joining the races there on the left-hand side, so it's going to be a 4v4. And in this instance, you're seeing Solanke on the ball, finds a doggy on the edge. The doggy cuts back, gets a shot off, and it breaks to Kulu. Kulu has a shot, but he's crowded out. Look how many bodies are in the way. Here I'm showing a little triangle again. Triangles. Why am I saying triangles? Because I think that is attacking patterns of play in a possession side, and that's what we're dominating here. This is why we're working so well here, pulling 4 of their players away just by doing it again. Pulling 4 of their players onto one side. Maddison on the turn again. There's a little 1-2 with a doggy there. Maddis gets it back. 1-2 in the box, in the danger, takes out 3 players, gets it, cuts it back. It goes, it misses everyone. And hopefully next time you can see maybe Solanke on the penalty spot and he finishes that chance off. So again, another chance that there's a narrative going around that we don't create many chances. We only play teams that come at us. But what if we're inviting the pressers on? What if we've created numerical advantages that create chances and it looks like transitions? We are creating these transitions, guys. That's what's happening from what I can see anyway. Again, Solanke slips Maddison in. Solanke slips Son in. He's a 1v1. Solanke can go left or right. He decides to go around the goalkeeper instead of taking his chance early. And then that chance comes to nothing. He tries to play in Kulu. Kulu has his shot blocked in the end. And I think really Solanke there, I mentioned him because he was the one to hold that ball up on that left-hand side. The ball sticks to him and he threads a nice ball into Son. And that's when Son, you're seeing him do that counter-attacking run. And this is why I've got, like, if we repeat this type of play, and I know a lot of people are thinking, look, we look better in a transition, but is it that we look better in transition, or is it the way that we're playing that creates these transitions? That's my question. So again, Solanke finding Son, can he go left? Can he go right? He decides to go around the goalkeeper instead of scoring, and that chance is squandered. It goes back to Kulu again, as I showed you before, and it's blocked. Johnson's goal here. We get the ball, comes into Solanke. Solanke gives it to Son. Son finds Johnson on the far right. Johnson sees a space, picks the ball up, takes it past his man, and actually finds the corners, gets his shot off, and we end up scoring a goal. Here, you can see Kulu going out wide, looks for Maddison. Can he find Maddison? He can find Maddison. Maddison gets to that byline, and Maddison does that little cutback as he does, get into that byline, and Solanke's shot's actually blocked. Now, the reason why I keep mentioning getting to the byline, when I saw Man City play Arsenal in that low block, and this is something that we didn't need to do more of, and I saw it at the start of last season, a doggy used to get to that byline, do the cutback. Maddison get into the byline, doing the cutback. This is a part of our patterns of play, attacking patterns of play, that we need to keep doing it because it's really hard to defend against. And for me, Solanke should do a bit better and finish his chance. I think Brentford do well to crowd that chance out and we don't end up scoring. But I thought that part, when you're trying to beat teams block, get into the byline, doing little cutbacks, it works rather than just firing the ball across the box. Here's a ball. I'm like, can Kulu pass to Solanke there? Because for me, if he passes, I'll take it back a little bit. If he passes right there in that instance to Solanke, you can see Solanke is on the shoulder. He can see the defender's number on the back of the shirt. And I always say, if you can see the numbers, defender's back of the shirt, if you can see it, then that's a goal scoring opportunity because the defender doesn't know where you are. In that instance, I think he should pass it. It doesn't happen, and that chance comes to nothing once again. Here, you can see Vicario. This is the mistake. I think Vicario, for me, he has to... don't know if you can see it, guys. Is it gone?
Yeah, it stopped screen sharing. Like it's not the main screen anymore.
Can I get it back? Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back.
All right, cool. So Yeah, as you can see, the mistake for me on that scene, basically, he has too much time. Oh, I've gone a bit too back. I don't know if I've gone too far forward or too far back. Anyway, I'll let it play on. I'll keep on talking. It's all right. So, I think
Oh,
Marlon's
there
moving
you go.
around with it. Yeah. All right, cool.
There you go.
So, yeah, I don't know if I've gone past it, but let me just talk about the point anyway, because the point was, I don't know if it was the scene here. I don't know. I think I've got to take it back a bit. Sorry, guys. Let me take it back a bit. I think I got, here it is. Here we go. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, I think with Vicario in this scene, and you guys can chime in, I think basically when Vicario has not, like, when he hasn't got a lot of time to think about his decision making, sometimes he makes poor decisions and the ball ends up on his weaker foot. And I think teams have sussed that out. And he's not really good at playing out from the back on his weaker foot. For me, his mind should be made up as soon as the balls come into him. I think a pass into Bentancur at the edge of the D should be happening. He should be paying that pass right into Bentancur, and he beats that press. So here I'm showing it from a different angle. The ball's played into him. Bentancur's running back. I think the ball should go into Bentancur first time. Obviously, we saw against Bayern Munich, it happened, and it was into Basuma, and then we lost the ball and he ended up scoring. So maybe he's got a bit of PTSD in that sense. But for me, he's got to pass it. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that has inherent risk, like you're pointing out. Like if he did pass it straight into, I can't actually quite tell what player that is that the arrow is pointing to, but assume it's. You say it was Bentancur.
So Bentancur is there. That's where Bentancur
Oh
is.
right,
So that
yeah.
was like,
So yeah,
basically that pass was on, but I was suggesting that he maybe does the pass into Bentancur. But if I show the video, you actually have more time to pass it into. I assume that was maybe Romero or Porro coming in that area. But because he takes too long on it and he doodles with it, it is a high risk moment. So now at that point, at this stage here, for me, he has to go over the top or put a bit of pace on that ball to get it to Bentancur, because Bentancur is the free man. And for me, he's taking too long on the ball and it causes pressure on him. You guys can
yeah.
jump in if you disagree.
I agree with you in terms of your points. I think that's also a difference though between having an elite goalkeeper in terms of
Correct.
distribution
I agree with that.
versus a good goalkeeper in terms of distribution. He is good. He's not an Edison. He's not an Allison. And ultimately, he should have made his mind up quicker. At the end of the day, I would have been more than happy if he just booted it into the stands. As long as it didn't lead to a goal, then this situation we don't see it too often, and I would rather not concede from it. But then again, I know that's not Ange's way. So
Yeah. Like it's the modern way. You see teams playing out from the back. Brentford were doing it as well from their goalkeeper. Flecking was playing out from the back as well. But I say because he was indecisive. It's not the first time it's happened. He's forced onto his weaker foot because of the press, and because of that, that's when you're seeing him lose the ball at his feet. So here he gets pressed. They lose the ball. And then that
yeah,
causes more disruption, in my opinion. It's more risky because he takes his time. Could he even play it to a doggy? Even if it goes out for a throw, could he play it out to a doggy there on the wide hand side? I'm not showing an arrow there, but the doggy's running back there. You almost lose the ball, and it almost happens. But here's a good point. This is when he's off his line. He's got more time to think about it. He plays the ball forward in this piece. When he plays the ball forward, it goes into Maddison, and the player is touch tight to him. And I've seen this happen before when players are touch tight to Maddison, and Maddison's lost it previously. And I've seen it in the back end of the run of games when we had the 10 games and we weren't doing too well against the top 4, top 6 teams. This time, the ball comes into him and he's able to turn his man. And because he's able to turn his man, that's when it creates a transition moment. All of a sudden, he's taken out 4 players. Now we've got a numerical advantage because he's able to turn his man. You know who else can do that? Basuma. I know a lot of people aren't fans of him. Basuma can get on the half turn as well. And I need to see more of that from him, in my opinion. And he needs to be a lot more consistent. That's my critique of Basuma. But as you can see, that pass that Maddison makes, because he beats that press, look how much space is opened up. It's not because Brentford gave it to us. It's because Maddison was brave and he's able to pass into the lines, and he knows where Johnson is. He knows where Son is. He finds that pass. With that pass, he's able to find Son. It goes a little bit wider than Son wants, and so it pulls him out of position. In that position, he fires across into Slanky. Slanky gets an aerial chance, and it goes wide of the post on that particular instant. But that's what you kind of want. Here you can see we're high up on the ball. Just do something. Hold on. Guys, can you still see that?
It's just
It's
smaller
small,
in
but
comparison.
yeah.
Smaller. Sorry, Marlon, because you keep changing the screen in the background. It's making me miss hit the button. Sorry. Yeah, cool, nice one. So on this one, guys, I think this is Kulu's chance. Yeah, the ball breaks into him from Maddison. So Maddison, obviously, again, involved in attacking play. I think he's crucial to our attacks at the moment. Everything seems to be going through him. And the reason why that is because Kulu, again, is aggressive off the ball. He's another player that can take players out the game. So he's another nuisance. That frees up Maddison. Maddison can find Kulu in this instance. Kulu gets that shot, and then the keeper's able to save it on this instance. But I think it's all down to Maddison finding him and being able to play in between the lines. Vicario handles that ball. So here's that incident. I don't know if Marlon wanted to talk about this one, but yeah, you can see here Vicario panics and he handles that ball outside the box. And lucky for us, the ref doesn't see it, and he books actually the Brentford players instead of booking Vicario. And
So,
go for it.
Dan, sending off or not?
No, it's not a sending
Why?
off booking.
Go on. Explain why.
It's not a goal scoring opportunity, is it?
No, it's not.
Liam?
My initial thought is sending off, but I also get your point around the goal scoring opportunity. Yeah, it's a difficult one to call, even from the angles.
Yeah. So would you have sent him off? If you were the ref, would you have sent him off?
If I'd have seen it, I would have probably sent it off, yeah.
Sam? It's fine.
No, I don't think so. Again, initially, the commentators were really making me nervous on my stream. They're saying, "Oh, they're going to VAR that and this and that." I just think that the ref, yes, he bottled it for not seeing the clear touches outside or touches outside the box. But I also thought, I know VAR don't get involved in sort of yellow cards and stuff, but surely they should have some sort of system that kind of says to the ref, "You've missed one there. You don't need to book these other players who are complaining. Have a bit of common sense." Because it's double jeopardy for Brentford. They feel they've been denied a red card and an advantage in the game.
Yeah.
And he ends up booking one of the players, and he books Thomas Frank as well, right? So now these players are on a tightrope for an injustice. So I do feel bad for them.
Ash,
would you send him off?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I watched the point on Sky Sports and the Ref Association, whatever it is, and they actually said it wasn't stopping a clear goal scoring opportunity. There was enough players around where Spurs were to win that ball back, and therefore it's not a sending off, and that's why the VAR didn't intervene. And that's why it could only be a yellow card if it was seen. So
So the law is, unless it's stopping a goal scoring opportunity, they can't send him off. So that's why VAR didn't get involved, right? But the question is, right? So the first handball, the first part, because he handles it 3 times, yeah. Mm-hmm. So the first one is in front of Damsgaard, yeah. So it's the second one, yeah. Is debatable where he handles it. Now, I thought he was in the box. If he handles it in the box, that's the one that will drop to Damsgaard's feet, yeah? And then the third one is the one where he clearly handles it outside the area. Now, my question to everybody is, right, because someone said that at the quality of a Premier League player, right, he's got an open net does he still score that chance?
It's hard to say.
There you go, guys.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say it's hard to say because obviously they say the further away you are from the goal, technically the XG says that your expected goal would be less likely because you're further away from the goal. So the further away you are, the harder it is. Yeah. And there are players behind.
But he's got an open, like the bit I do agree. If he's got an open goal, the amount of Porro is Johnson and Porro, the two that are closest to him, right? I didn't realize it was Johnson. Right, so there's Porro there, right? If he gets that ball at his feet and it's an open goal, more likely than not he would score, right? The quality of a Premier League player, most Premier League players, right? Take Richarlison out of it or someone like that, but most Premier or Lukaku, let's take Lukaku out of it, right? Most Premier League players would score. Mm-hmm. However,
I agree.
However, the bit I disagreed with when they said the quality. Now, if you look where that third handball is, right? Say he doesn't handle it. That third one is behind him, right? You can see it's clearly behind him. He'd have to be some special player, there, to turn and shoot first time with Porro and Johnson that close, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, it is a yellow card because Porro, but then you've also got to include Vicario in that situation. Vicario drops it and he has to take a touch. Vicario, what's the likely thing that Vicario is going to do next? He's going to slide into Damsgaard, right? Once he takes the touch. And the likelihood is he might win the ball. So for me, it's not sending off because Porro's too close. And actually, Vicario comes an extra defender, right? And if you go by the letter of the law, it has to be a clear-cut goal-scoring opportunity. And when you look at it in the sense of, when you go around the keeper and then they say, you go around the keeper and you've got the whole goal to aim at, but there's covering defenders if he gets taken out. The same could be said in that scenario, in my opinion. So that is why I am like, the only bit the referee got wrong is that he should have booked him. Apart from that, it's not sending off. And that's not me with my Spurs hat on. That's me when I went and looked at the law straight away and went, what the hell's going on here? And I admit, Liam, I was with you. When I first saw it, I went, oh my God. Not Liam, it was Sam that said it. I'm with you because it's commentary. And I went, I'm with you. He's going to get sent off here. But actually, when you look at the replays, it actually falls in favour of Vicario.
I think, I think that it reminds me a little bit of that that Newcastle versus Arsenal decision that they haven't shut up about, where the ball, from some angles, it looked like it went off. From other angles, it looked like it was just on. So I'm still yet to see a conclusive image that shows that the second touch was outside or inside the box. So based on the inconclusive nature of the images, in my opinion, I can understand why VAR haven't decided to get involved and give it a red card. So I agree. I don't think it was a red card, having looked at it more after the game.
So Rodney said, look at the angle from behind. Actually, for me, falls in favour of Vicario than against him, because that is where you can see how close Porro is and where the third handball takes place. Because you can see Damsgaard. If anyone can see Damsgaard's shape of his body, he's looking behind him. He's actually looking to the side on and more behind him, not straight at him. Where with this one, I think this is the second one. I can't remember if it's the first. No, this is the first one, right?
Yeah,
so the second one. Yeah, the second one, he's in front of him and he's looking at him. And then the third one, he's looking behind him, which means he's going to have to get his right foot and drag it back to turn at goal.
Yeah.
I think in terms of your, say if you're a referee trying to referee that game and you saw the handball, if it was given as a straight red by the referee, I can see perfectly why that would be given in that moment. And then maybe that's for VAR, whether they step in or not, and that we could have seen that. But a perfect example of this was Son rounded Flecken in that game and didn't score a goal. It's because a defender was in the way. So I guess you could argue, well, that was an open goal. He rounded Flecken and it didn't result in a goal. So it's not clear goal scoring opportunity. So it's a difficult one to comment on.
Yeah. Lord Rodney will have to agree to disagree on this one. But what's important in this factor is actually where Porro and Vicario are. It's so important. And if Vicario doesn't handle that third one, everyone has to remember he becomes a defender. And actually, there you go. Vicario, look, so that's when the handball happened. Damsgaard's looking behind him, so which means his first touch is going to have to be to turn it back. Is Porro close enough? When you look at the other angle, he is, right? That he probably shuts it down. But Vicario's next instinct will be to go and shut that down too. And he's standing right next to him. So each to their own. Each to their own. Carry on, Ash.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Good analysis there. The next one was an Mbeumo chance. There's a ball picked up, and this is when we do concede chances because it's not all Spurs. We will concede chances as much as we do create some. And I think that is the pros and cons of the system. You know, you have to put our chances away, and we will concede big chances like this. Now, when Mbeumo gets his run on, he gets perfectly times it, and the shot there is a bit close to Vicario, in my opinion. If he finds the corner, that's a goal. But Vicario does well nonetheless. I'm not going to take the credit away from him to save it. Here we got the ball. Maddison again. Ball sticks to him. He's having a great game. Defender tries to close him down in that area, but he's able to create separation from him and his man. Drops his shoulder. He's able to turn his man again. Takes about 3 players out. Carries it into space in that area. And then he has his head up when he's done that. And it looks like a transition. He picks that ball out from his feet and he creates that central attack where Son is through and goal. And again, we've got, can Son make his mind up earlier? This is what my notes are. Can he make his mind up earlier? Because back in the day, prime Son or confident Son, he's finding the corner left. How many times have we seen this when we see Son running into the box? He either slots it in the left, slots it in the right, and it's a goal at home, at the south end as well. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, and he slows it down. And as he slows it down, can he find that corner where I've put the arrow? I think here he passes the buck, and he passes it to Johnson. Now, Johnson, for me, he's got to shoot. Johnson, again, look, I put the arrows there, and I'm saying, look, he can find the corners. He can find the bottom corner, he can find the left corner, he can hit top corner, he can do numerous amount of things. And this is when I talk about aggression, confidence, assertiveness in Johnson. I need to see this part of this game because if you're in this area and you're a wide forward or striker, you're going to hit it. And after that goal he scored, I thought his confidence would be up. However, he doesn't make his mind up, in my opinion. He's kind of in two minds. And that ball, he fires it across the goal. And because it has too much pace on it, it doesn't quite find Kulu's feet. And it ends up going wide and he misses that chance. Vicario saves across into the box. They get a header onto it, and it's a top save, in my opinion. He gets across. And this is what you want Vicario doing, being at his best. He gets a good save. 3-1, the Maddison bet where you see Basuma comes on the pitch for Bentancur and makes a great tackle sliding challenge there, doing his defensive duty. That sliding tackle is so strong it breaks to Romero. Romero straight away runs onto it. The ball's still moving, hits that pass, good weight of pass as well, into Son, as you can see there. Son's on his bike, he knows what to do. This time Son's decision making is right, plays it through the legs into Maddison, and Maddison has a nice little dink over the top. Game, match, and set.
Fantastic goal, wasn't it?
Was a top goal, guys. I really like the composure. I like just the finesse on it as well. The way he just put it away, I thought it was a top goal, man.
So, because we've only got 20 minutes left, right? I wanted to get, and I know everyone's been speaking about it all day, but I wanted to get your opinions on the forum, okay? From what you've heard and the sound bites, right? Now, for me, everyone's talking about it in different ways, as they say. But Ash, let's start with you because you've probably heard some sound bites of Levy himself, right?
Yeah.
Which I will bring up in just a second, right? Have you seen the have you actually? You haven't watched the actual forum, the full
No,
version, yet, have you?
I just literally listened to the Vina who was who was at the forum, and I listened to another guy who was at the forum as well. I listened to them on Spaces, and then I read obviously the quotes on X, and the quotes from the top of my head, from what I remember, was he got them right there, right? So
yeah. So bear with me a second because I can't read them in the version of.
but
Okay,
I can say off the top of my head because he was talking about success, wasn't he?
yeah. So funny enough, so this was the funny thing, right? And I'm just going to bring this up. So everyone was taking the mick out of the guy with the hat, right? You saw everyone taking the mick out, saying, "Why is he wearing the chirpy hat?" Right? But it was actually him who asked this question about the top 3 achievements. Yeah, it was him who asked the question, right? So he said, right, and I'm gonna. This is exactly how he answered it because I've seen it. So the first thing he says to, I forgot the guy's name, the host. He literally says, so looks down, looks at him and goes, obviously reaching the Champions League final. Yeah. He then hesitates, right, and there's a pause, right. I don't know how long the pause is because it's edited, but he does pause, and you know when he's trying to think of another one, and then he said opening the stadium. Yeah.
Mm.
Now the third one, he took a longer pause and was trying to figure out what else he could say, right? And he's come out with honoured and blessed for the amazing players he's been with, right? And then he didn't really mention. He said I can't really mention names and this, that, and the other. But then the what's his name? The host then said Harry Kane, right? And he mentioned Harry Kane, Berbatov, and Bell. I think were the 3 players that he mentioned, right? If anyone else has seen it, right? If there is any other players he's mentioned, those were the 3, right? And I want people to get. I'm going to mention everything he said. He's also said, okay, about the criticism, right? That he's got thick skin, and he doesn't really listen to the fans, right? And that's exactly what he said. There's no ad libs. There's no nothing. That is what it is. And then the concession policy, right? He was asked about, right? And it was a question that came in early, so it was a preemptive question, and he basically said that he'd spoken to that it's the children tickets basically. I will never go, but the older one, the concession ones and the season tickets and that part, he was basically saying it doesn't fit the transfer. No, it doesn't fit the financial model in years to come, and people will start asking questions about it, right? A lot of people have basically said what financial model and things like that. But Ash, when you saw these comments, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I saw. Well, it was crazy, bro. Like all I heard was money, 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 because you didn't mention the League Cup final. That's what the standout for me was. I was like, how can you talk about success? Because what does success mean to you? That's what I want to know. I'm hearing a bit of feedback. I don't know if it's you, bro, or if it's me.
I'm hearing it as well. I wonder who it is. I'm not sure.
Let me mute my mic. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, cool. When he came out with Champions League final, I was like, wait a minute, we didn't win the Champions League final, so how can that be success? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Then he talks about opening the stadium. I was like, yeah, of course, as a businessman, that suits the narrative. You're not really helping yourself, but I do get it's a massive achievement. So, all right, cool, let's give him that one. But then when he said the players, I'm like, brother, the players he mentioned as well, what you just said, Harry Kane, Berbatov. I remember Berbatov like it was yesterday. I was watching Sky Sports News when I was on Freeview. I was so happy those days. And Gareth Bale, all money signings. Like Berbatov was like 18 mil or something crazy like that, which was like a record for us at the time. Then obviously Gareth Bale, 89 million or 90 million, whatever it was, another record. Harry Kane, 100 mil. Obviously the stadium is a money maker. Do you know what I'm saying? I won't even talk about he didn't mention the hotel being a success because it's not built yet. Well, that's all I thought. Just money. Champions League, the route to the final, he probably made like millions off that. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, geez, bro, Daniel, you're not helping yourself.
So there was another question. So just to add, and I didn't really get time to add this in. but he was also asked, because someone said about the way the Tottenham brand is being exposed to all the concerts and everything like that. He basically said, how to word it, he basically said that when is that going to start resonating on the pitch? And actually, Daniel took quite offense to that and actually said, I think he's got his information wrong. We're doing stuff in the background and whatnot. But obviously, he doesn't get a question answered after that, because the next question would be, but that's not what's showing to. I'm not going to say look, that's not what's being shown to most of us fans, right? Because you've just gone money, right? Sam, I want to bring you in. How was you feeling when you saw that?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen people saying, I think Barnaby Slater said, why didn't he say the League Cup that they've won? I mean, I'll go by it sort of one by one. The first one, getting to the Champions League final, it might not be a success in terms of we didn't win it. And I went out to the final, not to the stadium, but I went out to Spain with my dad and my older brother to watch it in a bar. And as you said, it was about 20 seconds of unbelievable pure emotion, and then the 89 and a half minutes of just depression. But that moment of getting to the final, that I do class that as a success, because I think, again, as Barnaby said, no one would have ever imagined that Spurs, little old Spurs, would have gotten to a Champions League final and been that close to bringing home the silverware. So I don't have a problem with that one. The second one, opening the stadium, yes, it is definitely a money thing. Actually, I agree with you on that. But it is a big achievement for him. He's created this massive icon in the area and around the world. Especially, I know maybe it's kind of off the back of them being maybe complacent with trying to find a new sponsorship for the stadium name, but the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is known by hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people around the world, and that exposure for the brand is obviously big for us in potentially drawing in talents around the world thinking, I want to come there and play at the stadium. I mean, how many times do you hear players say the stadium, the training ground is unbelievable, blah, blah, blah. So again, I don't really have a huge issue with that, but the players one just feels very plastic. We've seen, even in the All or Nothing documentary with the stuff with Danny Rose, it just feels a little bit like he genuinely could not think of any real success stories that he's had, and kind of just plucked that out of nowhere. And I'm sure he probably went home after that and thought, crap, I shouldn't have said that one. Like I should have come up with something a bit better than that. And he was thinking, next time I'm going to have those questions written down and I'm going to have the answers pre-prepared. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm not a staunch Levy outer. I'm kind of in the middle. I find it pretty impartial. I kind of fall on the side of better the devil you know than the one you don't know. And this is all I know. I mean, I'm only 25. I've literally been following the club since he's been there. I actually started following the club properly the season after we won the Carling Cup. So I've literally seen nothing but heartbreak.
Liam, bring you in on it. How did you take the comments? And obviously, I've tried to explain some of it now that I've seen, and obviously, I know everyone on this panel hasn't seen the forum yet, apart from me, because instead of watching Ash, I was watching the forum instead earlier.
Firstly, I'm not surprised. Let's be honest. We've not had a lot of success, but that's the truth of it. We're not, as such, a trophy-winning club because we just haven't won many trophies under his tenure. And I think hopefully that resonated with him. The fact that when asked about what your success is, he had to resort to not winning a final and a stadium. Yeah, it's a great stadium, but at the end of the day, a football team the size of Spurs should be winning trophies. There should be trophies in that stadium under his tenure. Yeah. And that is
And just to add on to your point, it's not a case of we're expecting, state trophies every season. Yes, but we do get that there are bigger teams out there that are spending way more money than us, and this, that, and the other. But it's like every time we've gone to compete, it always seems to come back to his name. It always ends up coming. It always comes back to. So it's a case of, if it was one trophy every 4 years, does that sit well? I'm still with you, Liam. Liam, you carry on.
Yeah. If we were winning one trophy every 4 years, obviously it would be better than what we've seen. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, what I want Spurs to be is serious contenders in all competitions we're in. And the biggest issue with Spurs right now is we haven't won anything. We don't have a winning mentality because we physically have not won anything since in over 10 years. You can't breed a winning culture if you're not winning things. You can win 3 points, but at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that you've actually achieved anything that season. Getting top 4 for me, and I'm sure many fans, is not a trophy. There is no trophy attached to that, and it might be great for the club, but I want to see, like every Spurs fan, more success under ENIC. And I'm not surprised by his answer because, quite frankly, we haven't seen much success, and I'm sure he knows that.
But he's ignoring that fact, isn't he? By the other question that was asked earlier, the question where he goes, I don't really listen to the criticism. I've got thick skin. I'm dry. I'm something about trying to drive myself to be more successful. But if he's not listening to the criticism, how does he know what successful is, right?
I get what you're saying, but I also think that maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, I don't know Levy.
Of course,
none of us
we're
do.
just getting it.
But at the end of the day, I think he does want Spurs to be successful. It's just, can we dare? Can we follow our motto to actually get there? And that's, I guess, the question. I think he probably thinks Spurs should have won something by now, and I think he genuinely believes that, and every Spurs fan believes that. It's a really difficult one. I understand, as a businessman, he's probably not going to listen to what the fans think in terms of how he thinks he's running the club, because there's probably a lot we don't know about the club, and there's a lot of, I guess, intricate details that we don't know. But from a fan's perspective, we support a team because we want to see our club be successful. And what we haven't seen is our club actually be very successful in a very long time. And whether that's down to Levy alone, I don't think it is just down to him. I think it's down to a combination of things, wrong decisions. I do think the appointment of someone like Jose or someone like Conte was an attempt to win something. I know that's quite ironic because he sacked him before the League Cup, but I do think that was sort of a step in sort of that winner's direction without trying to actually, how do I describe it, go all out and sign like £100 million players. Let's just get in a serial title winner and hopefully can get us over the line. I think that was the option. And now we've reset and gone for this entire rebuild, going for young players that can hopefully bring us up to that level. I know it's a bit of a contentious subject, but yeah, that's my opinion. I'm not surprised, let's put it that way.
Dan, before I bring you in, there was one bit I just forgot to mention. So there was a question about the how many games, right? And I don't want to go into the how many run of games there were, but what he mentioned was, he did say that we're the only country to have 2 competitions, right? And he highlighted the League Cup as something that maybe wasn't needed in this country, right? And considering from his 3 comments, and everyone's expecting him to say the League Cup, is that how much he devalues the League Cup, in the sense of, because he wants to, and he basically said that to basically make higher quality games. And I wasn't sure whether he was talking about in Europe or the FA Cup or the league, because it wasn't really highlighted. But what did you make of these whole comments when you saw them?
Is that for me, Marlon?
Yeah, it's for you, Dan. Sorry.
Oh, guys, I mean, all of you made some very good comments and very measured. Yeah, very sensible. Yeah, I think all of you there, and that's what not I've been hearing on social media. Now I've got involved as well with the meltdown. It's got me. It did get me. Now, I have a lot to say, and we won't have time now to do it. But let me try and just kind of summarise it quickly. I didn't want to hear any of this from Levy. I didn't want to even. I don't know if we're going to get to the Ange part, but I didn't want to hear what I heard from Ange either.
I'll bring up the Ange part now. Actually, why we're here as well. But you carry on, and I'll bring up the Ange part.
I just didn't want to hear all of this because how I'm feeling. We all feel our own way towards the club. We all got different opinions and feelings and whatever. Yeah, and that's okay. Yeah. Now I was already feeling pretty unenthusiastic about the season. At the moment was where we stand. I don't want to go into it too much. I'll try and be really quick. Yeah. Obviously, the transfer window is a failure for me. I don't see us improving as a team. I think if you look at results this season and last season, kind of shows you where we're at. I just don't think we've done enough in the transfer market to improve. And Ange's comments about he's not worried about defending and we're still in a title race. And
so can I clarify that?
Sure.
Because I watched exactly how the question was asked and how he answered it. Right. So the question was asked about. He basically said the guy had asked regarding winning teams, winning leagues and cups and stuff. The foundation's always been made off a great defense, as well as a good attack, right? Those were the two words that we used, right? A mean defense and a good attack. And Ange basically said, right, so it's time to show pragmatism in games. Teams that win trophies have solid defenses and as well as attacks. That was exactly what the question was. Ange laughed, smiled, and he basically went, "You're spot on, mate." There was a pause, and then he went, "But that won't be us," right? Exactly the way he said, in that tone, what he's like, how he normally answers it. That won't be us. As much as we want success, there is a Spurs way, right? And I won't deviate from that. And he basically said, if we're gonna win trophies, we're gonna do it the Spurs way. We're gonna be different from the rest. Those were his words.
Okay.
And I'll bring the other two into it afterwards, because now that they've heard what I've just said.
It's food for thought, what you said there, Marlon, how you explained it. Maybe it's not as clear-cut as we've all kind of been reading into it. But in any case, it does still concern me that we're not, to be a top team, a winning team, you do need to have a good defence. You do need to be tactically flexible in games. You see all the good managers do it. We're even seeing Arteta doing it now, aren't we? I know he's further along the line in his management of the team, but it's just really worrying, and it just kind of, it depends how you read into it. It just kind of confirms to me that I don't think we're going to make much progress this year. I'm not saying we're not a good team. We are. We can beat many teams in this league, but it's when we come up against the top sides which will really show us that where we're at. So I'll pass it back to you guys. I don't want to go on a rant about it too much. I'm Levy out. I've got to the point I've had enough of Ange as well. So, but yeah, back to you guys.
Liam, before I go to Sal, I'll come to you back to you, Liam, on the Ange's comments and how he said it. How are you feeling towards what he said?
I'm probably quite controversial in this sense, in the fact that I, like him, believe in a very much a Tottenham way in terms of playing, attacking football. And I think you can extrapolate his comments and say, okay, he doesn't care about defence. But I just don't think that's the way he meant it. I think he more means the philosophy behind it in terms of not going to this Jose or Conte style where we're sort of sitting back, trying to hold a lead. I think that has scarred Spurs. We saw it under Conte and we saw it under Jose at times where we would we'll go one go up and then we would just sit back, and they would say the players would naturally sit back and not want to get forward. I think it's about trying to get that out of the team. I do think there is a Spurs way and a way we want to see our team play. That's attacking football, entertaining football. But at the end of the day, we also need to win. So there is an element of pragmatism, which we've seen from Arteta, and even take who I think is the best manager of all time in Guardiola. Obviously, he changes his tactics. Now, can we see that from Ange? Obviously, we'll hopefully see it this season. I don't want to use up all the time, so yeah.
Sam?
Look, I think it's kind of refreshing to see like it kind of I go both ways with it. It's kind of refreshing to see Ange answer some of the stuff the way that he does, because it's almost like he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna see you next Tuesday. I'm just gonna say whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's almost refreshing, because you see a lot of these managers who, like in Arteta's case, they're just outright rude, and crybaby-ish. Then you see other managers who kind of try and dance around everything, but he's very Australian. He's very very straight to the point, right? Admittedly, I am not without concern. I think that it wasn't said in this, but he also made a comment like last week on the FC 25 release promo, where he said, if I could play 11 strikers, I would. And I genuinely believe that that's the truest thing he's ever said. Because I think that he'd play rush goalkeeper, and it'd be the most exciting games to watch, but it would be so difficult to stick with it. And to an extent, he kind of does play a system similar to that, where he wants everyone to kind of get forward and get involved. Look, I'm not definitely not Ange out, because I understand that we're in a project, and look, this season, I don't want to say it's a write-off, because last season, in my opinion, was the write-off. Although I didn't predict us to finish below 6th personally when we started the season. I don't know. I can never. I want to say that I'm a realist, but then I can never actually give Spurs go too hard against them in that regard. But yeah, look, his comments are concerning, but also refreshing. I kind of agree with Dan. I'm not sure how far Ange is really going to take us. I'm here for the ride. Where else am I going?
Mm-hmm.
But I do, and I agree with Liam as well about the pragmatism. There needs to be a balance, and I'm not sure that Ange leans enough towards the middle of great attacking and solid defense. And I think that the novelty of all out attacking football kind of wore off as last season went on, and we lost more and more, or dropped more and more points to teams that we should have been, with all due respect, beating.
No, and I advise all of you to go watch it, because even as I've explained it, you might get what I was trying to get from some of it as well. The question that really doesn't look well on Levy, and I think, I can't remember who said it, if it was Liam or so, he probably will go back and look at that third answer and will probably go, I wish I never answered it like that. Because it just doesn't look good, no matter way he tried to spin it. And I didn't like the way he answered about the WSL questions as well. That kind of got my back up a little bit, but that was just more me, not anything else. But he did answer some of the questions very well, and I've got to give him credit somewhere along the line for some of the stuff he did get asked. But it wasn't a good look for him. Again, it's one of them. Every time he keeps coming out into the media, as they say, when he went to Cambridge, if you asked him one question but what he kind of does is he answers it, and you can go, but you've done something completely different elsewhere that goes against your point, right? So it's kind of one of them. But yeah, I advise anybody to go watch it, right? Don't take what we've said on the panel. You need to go watch it and make up your own mind on whether you go down.
Say one more thing, Marlon?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, and it is so difficult like this. All what's going on with Levy and Ange and the doubts, and the football still goes on, doesn't it? The games are coming thick and fast, and we have to kind of split it. There's that, and there's the games, and that's what we can't forget. We're playing. We've got a game Thursday, Sunday, big games coming up, and we just need to give our energy into that as well. No, yes, don't ignore what's going on with Levy and Ange. Of course not, but it's just that balance, isn't it?
Well, they didn't sit next to each other this year, and they did ask him about the Tottenham. It wasn't the way it was last year. Put it that way, and I think it was the best time to see how that relationship has kind of grown. And I felt like, and I don't know, and this might be more towards, I feel like Ange, because of the way the whole season's gone, he was asked less questions, right? In my sense, I feel like it was more the stage was given to Lange and Levy, and obviously Beth and I forgot the guy's name, the men's coach as well. I can't say his name, so I'm not going to butcher it. But just go and watch it. I say, just go and watch it. Don't take any of our opinions, and then you'll make up your own mind. Quickly before we go, we obviously got 2 games this week. I want to get your predictions, and then Ash, I'll finish on you. So Dan, first carrier bag, as we call them, and then United.
So carrier bag is a tricky fixture, I think. I think a lot of people underestimating the carrier bag. If Ange is going to make a lot of changes like he did against Coventry, it could be a problem. So it really depends on the lineup. I'm hoping that he doesn't make too many changes and then we take it seriously and get off to a good win. So if we do that, then I would say 3-1.
Liam? Oh, actually, Man United. You forgot about Man United.
Man United, I think it's it's an intriguing game for me, Man United. And I think both teams are not particularly great, but both teams have got some excellent players. And I think it's going to be a score draw. I think we'll see that we'll have a lot of the ball. We'll have a lot of chances. Again, are we going to be clinical enough? And I just think that the high line is susceptible to Man United's pace. Man United always turn up against us, especially at Old Trafford. So I'm going for a 2-2.
Liam?
Carabag, I'm expecting... Well, I think it's going to be 2-0. That's what I think. Because we're at home, to be honest, I'm not really concerned so much about our home form against teams like Carabag. It's more when we go away to these grounds. And obviously the travelling also involved. In terms of Man United, I know everyone says that Man United aren't maybe... Their quality maybe isn't there, but I don't like playing Man United. Their transitional attack is not what I want to see. They've got fast forwards, and it's not something I like. De Ligt seems also very good at set pieces. That concerns me quite a lot. I can see us losing that game, and it'll be like a last minute loss. But I want to say optimistically 2-2. So I'll stick with that, but I reckon it'll be more like 2-1.
To who, Man U?
To Man United, yeah.
Okay. Sam?
I agree with Dan. I think that a lot of people are overlooking Carabag, even joking, calling them carrier bag. I'm sure that they might even see these sorts of things and be like, they're calling us carrier bag. We've got to do these pricks in. Like,
they probably don't even know what a carrier bag is, to be fair.
So yeah, look, I think that there will be a goal, probably from a set piece from them, and it will be 3-1. That's my prediction for the Carabao game. And then the United game, I think kind of like last season, I think they'll score first, kind of with their first shot, as most of our goals are. And then I think that similarly to how we played against Brentford, our midfield will be pressing very aggressively against them. I've seen players like Casemiro like getting pressed heavily by Liverpool, and I think that that's kind of the blueprint for how to play against them. So I think that we'll get one back. United will sit deep against us, and we'll nick one close to the death and win it 2-1.
Let's hope. Let's hope so. That'd be great.
Yeah, I want that result as well.
Go on, Ash, before I ask the guys where everyone can find them before we go.
Just a quick one on the Ange comments. I never said anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. When I heard it, it floored me. I can't lie. My head was hot. My head was gone. I questioned everything. I looked in the mirror. I felt dirty. I was saying Ange out. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I was panicking. I said, what is going on here? I've been defending this guy for the whole season. Brother, I can't tell you, bro. That absolutely rattled me. I'll be real.
What about it, rattled?
I slept on it. I read it a few more times. I said, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Then I deeped it and I was like, even against Chelsea, we played the higher line. It's like, it's here we are, mate. So he's been saying it the whole time. So I agree with what these guys were saying. He means it in a holistic way. We're not going to change how we attack or how we approach games. We're not going to just all of a sudden become pragmatic and sit back and do a low block. That's what he means. So I'm okay now. I'm okay, but I'm not gonna lie. I had a wobble and it was a big wobble. But yeah, coming back to the games, Karabag. I think they gave, who was it? Leverkusen. They gave Leverkusen a bit of trouble,
they did.
know.
They did.
Well,
They went close.
It's not going to be easy, but in front of the lights at home, I think that's the difference. If it was away from home, I'd have a different reaction. I think we'll do him 3-1. I think 3-1 will do it. I know like there's going to be a lot of changes and maybe some of the guys, senior guys, have to come on to change it up. But I do envision us making a lot of changes. I think Ange is stubborn. He's going to do a lot of changes again, and it's going to piss off a lot of people. That midfield dynamic, again, I've spoken about it. I think that's going to be an issue, but I think we'll get the job done. Man United, whew, Manchester United. You know what? I'm not going to lie. I'm going for a score draw. We do not have luck against Man United. Obviously, they won against Southampton. Southampton dominated them, had a lot of possession, but ultimately they got result. They won 3-0. Barnsley, they did their thing. But then, it went back to normal against Crystal Palace. So I'm looking at that game. I'm not sure what Man United are going to turn up. If it's the Man United that turn up against Palace, we get a point. But if it's a Man United that we've played before and they just all of a sudden come out of nowhere, Højlund or Rashford turns up, Garnacho all of a sudden on a quick transition, you can see it now, the headlines. Like it's so annoying because Tottenham are better than Manchester United in my opinion, but I'm gonna go for a score draw, bro. What are you saying? What do you reckon? What's your score predictions?
I think we'll win on Thursday. I think I've gone for a 3-1. But you'll find my prediction on Irish Hotspur, so make sure you check that out.
Quick love, Irish Hotspur, big up.
But United game, I think we'll lose.
Fair.
I think we're better at home. Hence the reason why we didn't get battered by Arsenal. I think we're better at home, and I've said this from day. I just don't think we're going to turn up. I think we'll either get a point from Brighton or we'll get a point at Old Trafford, but we'll lose the other.
Hear it. And on that note,
let everyone know where they can find you tomorrow. Actually, no, before you go, Dan, just to let everybody know, Dan's channel title is in the description. But Dan, just let everyone know where they can find you.
Thank you, guys. Oh yeah, you just find me on YouTube, the Spurs Danalist. I am also on TikTok as well. I'm fairly new, so just building, getting about as much as I can on some channels. But yeah, guys, we do a show. I do a show with Nige Purecoys. I don't know if you know him, but he's new as well. And we've kind of linked in together. And we're doing a show every Tuesday. And we'll try and stream when we can if we have time. But yes, come check us out. Thank you, guys.
And Liam's channel is also in the description as well. Liam Talks Ball. But Liam, let people know where they can find you on the socials.
Yeah, I also do YouTube, but haven't uploaded as much as I probably should. It's just finding that time to obviously create content that obviously you're happy with, right? So yeah, at Liam Talks Ball, as well as on X. That's where I do, to be honest, a lot of my commentating on X, as well as people commenting on my stuff and telling me how wrong I am. But it's part of it. So
welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Liam, get this right. Ash gets told he's right all the time, and everyone tells me I'm wrong. Right? It ends up my stuff's coming out right, and his stuff's wrong.
What are you talking about? Any chance to slander my name?
Hey, that's why we're together. Sam, let people know where they can find you on the socials.
So I haven't got my own YouTube channel yet. I'm not sure if I ever want to make a YouTube channel. I've thought about it, but at this point in time, I've not gone onto it. I just enjoy the discussions. So you can catch me on the Irish Hotspur normally on Thursdays, but I'm out this week, unfortunately. And I think because of the game anyway, there probably won't be one on Thursday. But yeah, you can catch me on Twitter, Spurs Undercover. I can't even remember my own name now. And if you want to get in and be one of my 5 real followers amongst all these sex bots that follow me every day, that would be great because now I'm kind of talking to no one, but we'll take it.
I was trying to follow you before, but it wasn't letting me, but I did it down.
I found you after We Are Tottenham TV, and I was like, I know this guy. Why can't I? I literally had to put it in and it came up. I was like, yeah, I got him.
I was like, oh shit, I got a follow from Spurs Kings. We're in.
Ash, let people know about tomorrow.
Yes. So yeah, tomorrow, guys. Before I go any further, please make sure you like and share this particular stream. We need it to be seen as well as much as possible. Big up the channel as well. Big up the panel and the guests, the chat. Sorry. Tomorrow, I'm trying to do a Man United thing. I'm not gonna lie. Man United, they're talking kind of tough. They're talking wicked. So I want to set up something with Manchester United. I've got a few guests already that rep Man United. But yeah, it's the usual suspects. Arsenal, they'll be there, and the rest of the rivals will be there, man. So yeah, make sure if you like a lot of banter, high energy, some football debate, but mainly people cussing each other. But yeah, check the show out, man. The rivals, it gets a bit heated, but we do talk about football. I promise you, it does get a bit technical as well. So make sure you do chime in, and that's at 9:45, guys, right here.
Again, apologies to everyone. We are using a new service. I hope you've enjoyed some of the graphics into it. We're just getting our teeth into it.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've seen the change. Thanks to everyone in the panel, Dan, Liam, Sam. We are obviously going to invite you all back on again. So I'll keep in contact with all of you, see if I can get you on again. And hopefully you've enjoyed tonight as well. It ain't been too much on all of you. But thank you again for coming on. Please make sure that after there's going to be an end screen after it, please make you scan the QR code. As Ash always says, please like, subscribe, and comment as we read all of them. But as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Come
Good
on,
night, guys.
Come on, let's